funny.
Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
As always, I'm adjusting my mic right after I start recording. I don't know why I don't.
Do it before you hit record. All right. In case he's lost his mic, Eric is saying that he might have lost his mic.
Yeah, I did lose my mic there for a second.
All right. But you're back?
I'm back, but I'm still fiddling with it. I think I got it all straightened out now. All right. So our topic today is in response to a podcast that Timothy Gordon did not long ago concerning I'm not pro-life, I'm anti-abortion, and which to me is a good thing.
Yes,
we've always had that attitude, but he made some assertions about the pro-life movement in general, and oh, great. Hey, knock it off.
Just put him in his cage?
Huh?
Want me to just put him in his cage?
No, he'll stop. I think it's just the mailman or something.
I'm going to let him out.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. He said some things that, in one sense, he's 100% right. But he doesn't seem to understand the real problem and how the problem got there.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, to say that the pro-life movement is run by losers. Yeah, that's kind of right, but only in a sense, because you're looking at a very small portion of the pro-life movement. I don't think Timothy Gordon even knows what the pro-life movement is. To him, the pro-life movement is 40 Days of Life. That's the pro-life movement. And that's not the pro-life movement.
Right.
There are things that I didn't even know about. Before we started recording, I talked to Mom. I just needed to fill a few holes that I couldn't remember about the history of the pro-life movement.
And she informed you that there were holes you didn't even realize
right,
needed to be
definitely.
filled.
And I think a good way to understand this would be to go back to the beginning of the pro-life movement. And I don't know when you could say precisely that it did start, but because you know it was made legal. When was Roe v. Wade?
You know, this should be on the tip of all of our tongues, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. It's a shame. 73.
Yeah, I was going to say 73 or 74. I was born in 71, so a little bit pre-Roe. You were born when?
74. So Mom could have aborted me, but you know.
Right. But you know, by the time, because I was in school in a grade where we were doing, you know, people were talking about politics and that kind of stuff. And we did even a thing where the teacher picked a couple of kids to pretend to be the candidates and give, you know, speeches and stuff. Even then, abortion, at least within our household, abortion was part of the landscape and part of the picture. And I think even by then, you could say the pro-life movement was very well in swing.
Yeah. Of course, you're looking at 80s then. It wasn't very organized.
Well, the 1980 election. Yeah.
Okay. But before that, I mean, when you look at 73, abortion becomes legal, not by act of law, but by a bunch of judges just suddenly saying, oh, okay, we're going to keep you from criminalizing abortion. And I think most people were like, well, that's not going to stand. You know, my senators, my governors, everybody's going to get together because nobody wants to kill babies. That's idiotic. Why? This is a small portion of people.
And that's probably why it took several years for the pro-life, what we think of as the pro-life movement, to get started because nobody believed at first there was a need for a pro-life or an anti-abortion movement.
Yeah, even if you've got these dark alleyways with these tiny little clinics where they kill babies, that's a small portion of society. And then eventually was like every city had one. And eventually you go to black neighborhoods and they're on every corner. Nobody was prepared for that. So it took a long time.
Let's stop and because there are people who are gonna cry foul about the way you just said that.
Yeah,
the reason is not because black neighborhoods are bad and therefore they kill their babies. The reason is because those who have always been behind the abortion movement, the abortion industry, have also been people who are themselves ideologically racist, and they want to eliminate black people. Therefore, they set up the clinics in black neighborhoods. That's where that comment came from.
And this is all provable. You could go back to the beginnings. Margaret Sanger, just Google it. You'll see it. I don't even have to defend it. But there was an awakening, kind of. And it wasn't an awakening by people like the church, the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church still hasn't awoken. It was mostly Protestant people. Are you eating?
I just took a sip of water out of my can as you said that, and I was chuckling at the same time, so it came off poorly.
Okay. So anyway, it was mostly Protestant churches, I think, and various individuals. And a big part of this that people need to understand, this happened spontaneously in all the cities across America. This wasn't like a giant church saying, we're going to go protest abortion. This was just people suddenly understanding, hey, they're killing babies in our city. We need to put a stop to it. And
with government sanction.
Yeah. Sometimes even being paid for by the government. So it was something that happened. It was a grassroots phenomenon.
In the truest sense. Yeah, absolutely.
And when you have any grassroots movement, you have people, generally the movers, the shakers, the people you see out front, they're fanatics. They're I don't know what you want to call them. They're fringe. They're not normal people who are polite and
right.
Well, they're not society.
Yeah, they're single-minded, and in the truest sense that if the people who are really at the forefront of the grassroots grow up, and I can't call this inappropriate given what abortion is, but it's like, if you want to talk football, they want to talk about abortion. If you want to talk about the latest lawnmower you bought, they want to talk about abortion. It's like that.
They are all the little boy who looked up and said, hey, the emperor's got no clothes on.
And as soon as he's, once you see that, I mean, picture that in a real life situation. Once the boy is willing to acknowledge and say that, how can he think about anything else as long as the emperor's out there parading around?
Right.
And say, well, hey, let's talk about that dice game we played the other day. But
what are you talking about? That dude's naked.
Exactly. That's kind of how it was with the early leaders who were responsible for growing up these grassroots communities.
Yeah, and again,
like I said, we don't say that critically.
No, not at all. And they were mostly Protestant.
Yeah,
there were Catholics in there.
To the shame of the Catholic Church, because they should have mostly been bishops.
Right. And they never were. And
there
were Catholics in the movement, but they were being run by Protestants because Catholics generally think, well, my priest or my bishop should be doing this. So they don't try to take leadership roles. But you had ministers of churches or elders or whatever they have. They were the natural leaders of their crowd, so they naturally took leadership in the pro-life movement. And so very early on, when they realized it started just with protests, we'll go, and this is another way you know that this is grassroots. because the protests happen on Saturday mornings.
That's when working people can get away.
Yeah, because these people all had jobs.
Yeah,
and
they weren't paid protesters like BLM and Antifa and stuff like that.
Right. They weren't professional pro-lifers. They were men and women with families who realized we have to do something to change this.
And all of these people would have much rather been going to their kids' ball games or whatever on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, yeah. And, okay, I'm just going to, at the outset, say, these were the nicest people in the world.
That's true.
Most of them were very good friends. A lot of them were weird. A lot of them were a little bit crazy. But they were the nicest people in the world. And they most of them would give you the shirt off their backs.
Mm-hmm.
Just for asking. But as that began to organize into larger and larger groups, generally you had a city that was mostly organized by one group. And then nationally it began to, people began to recognize we need to set something up so that that we can operate and network with each other. And that became Operation Rescue. The Cincinnati taste of that.
The rescue movement was, should we explain what that is and why Operation Rescue was a little bit different?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if it was, Project Jericho. That was in Cincinnati, but I don't know if that was before Operation Rescue or if it just was our chapter.
Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, prior to, initially people would protest and they would do what they can to be like a barrier. They wanted to, they thought, hey, we need to not only call attention, but there's human slaughter going on in here. What do you do if you know there's somebody being killed somewhere? You do what you can to stop it. And so it grew into a movement that was not just, okay, we're going to go every week and protest, but on certain weeks or on certain, chosen times that had to be organized for obvious reasons, they would amass a group of people, and the goal was to shut that clinic down for that day.
Yeah.
To give all the babies who were going to be slaughtered that day the opportunity for one more day. Maybe their mother will change their minds, make the right decisions, and the babies will live. That was the whole purpose was, and that's what they called, that's what Project Jericho was in Cincinnati, right? I don't think that was anywhere but Cincinnati. But eventually it grew to Operation Rescue in various cities.
Yeah. Led by Terry Randall, or Randall Terry. I can never get his name right.
It's Randall Terry.
Yeah, him and a guy named Joe Scheidler.
Joe Scheidler, wasn't he Catholic, though?
Well, I don't know if he was or not, but I know that Terry Randall eventually became Catholic.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that. He was like
he was still active.
Like charismatic Protestant
type
leader guys. And I mean,
he
wrote
Catholic.
A book, Why Does a Nice Guy Like Me Keep Getting Thrown in Jail? I bet it's still a good book if somebody were to go read that.
Yeah. Bring his name up later because he's still doing something probably much more important at this point.
Okay.
And much more ignored by the prominent pro-life movement.
Oh,
because, but considering the fact that we were going and shutting down clinics, as in putting our bodies on the property and then going limp, so that we had to be carried away and sent. I keep saying we.
I know you and I never did this, but our mother did it.
I was not allowed.
Our aunts,
our
did
grandma.
It. Grandma did
it. Dad never got arrested, but instead he bought this giant bus. Mm-hmm. And so while people are blocking the entryways of the abortion clinic, he would block the driveway with the bus.
He just parked the bus, put the keys, hide the key. What did he do? He probably gave the keys to somebody.
I guess he'd just walk away with it.
He might walk away with the keys, but
they would have to tow it.
Yeah, and they have to get like special
big tow
towing
truck.
rigs
Yeah.
for it. You couldn't just bring a regular tow truck in. It was a big deal.
I remember a picture of Joe Martin. He's this scrawny old man who was very dirty, not perverted but unclean,
Well,
not washed.
He didn't take care of himself. It seemed like, but he was one of those that always had like every color of scapular that you could think of. He had on, and he was a runner. He was running all the time, which is why he was so skinny.
Stop it. Yeah. And he always had, he would say the rosary real loud as he walked back and forth each week. But he was scrappy. And I still remember a picture of him during one of these. It wasn't even a rescue operation, this specific one.
Just a normal protest.
Well, in Cincinnati, there was a injunction. They said you cannot have more than X number of protesters on this side of the street. And a couple weeks where like, you know what, we're going to break the injunction.
Just do it.
What are they going to charge it? It's not even trespassing.
Why do they get to call us an individual protest? Who gets arrested if there's one more person? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a stupid injunction.
So everybody went on to the other side of the street and they arrested everyone. But I've got this picture of Joe Martin. It took like 15 cops to arrest him.
Oh.
And eventually he had crawled under the bus and he was holding on to the rail, to the frame of the bus, and they're trying to get him free of this frame. Every now and then you'd see a cop just fly off as he got kicked or something.
Lost his grip and flew backwards.
Yeah. So, imagine that scene. Now imagine there's a group of people who want to be pro-life. They don't want to be on the bad side. They don't want to be...
abortion's bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But they don't want to be associated with that.
Right.
So they start...
respectable pro-life.
Right. So they start things like Right to Life, which maybe has its place. I guess they do lobbying and they do, quote, education.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is they've got their voting guide that shows the record as it regards pro-life matters of the various political candidates. But here's what I don't know: when with Right to Life, when they have like their pro-life voting guide, is it all lumped together? Is it just abortion? Do they include, which is one of the things that has annoyed me about the pro-life so-called movement recently, is that they decide in order to be pro-life, they have to be anti-death penalty. Does it include that? So I'm not even sure how good the voting guide is.
At one time it didn't, but it got more and more, I don't know, politicized and they steered away from being anti-abortion.
Right.
So, and this is where Timothy Gordon's complaint was. We know what the fight is. The fight is against abortion, not death penalty, not immigration, not
even euthanasia, even though euthanasia is really bad.
Right.
Or assisted suicide or whatever.
There's not that much going on. We need to fight abortion. That's the crime that's happening. That's what we have to fight. We need to be abolitionists. And we're talking 80s here.
Yeah.
When people like the Right to Life groups made it this way. For example, I mean, when I was talking to Mom, she talked about how the Right to Life guy called her and said, the Harvest Home Fair is coming up. We've got a booth. Do you want to man the booth for Saturday night? And she said, I'll man it, but I'm not just going to have pictures of cute babies.
Yeah, we're gonna show abortion. This is an anti-abortion. We're going to show people what it is. That's another big thing that sort of transformed with the onset of Right to Life. The anti-abortion movement, the pro-life movement of the early 80s, let's say, considered it not only appropriate but necessary to sort of smack people in the face in terms of educating them. This is what abortion does.
Yeah. You got to look at this. This is what it is. It's nothing else. And you can't call it something else.
Right to Life, it's like, oh, wait, we can't put gross pictures up.
Right.
In fact, who was it? Bailey.
What?
I can't think of his first name.
Peter.
Huh?
Peter Bailey.
Peter Bailey?
No.
No, it's not Peter. It might be Bill. Although that would be weird because of the song. Anyway, he filed in Indiana to run as a state congressman, senator, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
He acquired the signatures and filed to run, but his sole purpose in filing and becoming an official candidate was that once you're an official candidate, stations can't block what you air. Right. And he wanted to air these very explicit pro-life, anti-abortion commercials that had the hard images.
Yeah.
And so he did that so that he would be able to run those. Now, he also, once he filed, he also decided, you know what? Why not also try to win? And I don't know whether he ever compromised that, but he did become a serious politician too. So I don't know where he is or what he's doing now.
Once you're a politician, you're a politician.
Yeah, yeah. It's too bad that's almost a bad word.
Yeah.
Because it should mean the same thing as a statesman, and there should be a certain respect for it.
Well, to wrap up that story real quick, Mom said, well, I'm going to show other literature besides what you have. And he said, that's all right. That's okay.
Oh,
and Mom
okay.
said,
Maybe
you should talk to the board before you say that. So he said, all right, I'll call you back. He called her back like in 5 minutes and disinvited her.
Said, no, we'll get somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I mean, that alone, what year do you think
that was late 80s.
Mid 80s?
That was late 80s.
Late 80s.
Mid to late 80s.
Okay.
And
so we're talking about, 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And already that's how Right to Life was going.
Yeah. And that's like the secular arm of this. It was even worse in the church.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I remember, the Catholic Church would have nothing to do with us. At least I can only talk for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But and I know there were priests who would do things throughout the nation, and I don't know of any bishops who really had their name in the news much.
I tell you that bishops, and I've said this before, they acted like they were embarrassed to be associated with the pro-life anti-abortion movement. And I honestly think that the biggest reason that American bishops were against abortion is not because it kills babies. And this is a really harsh judgment that I'm making here. But I really think that this is how it worked out in their political minds. The reason they're against abortion is not because it kills babies, but because it makes it difficult for them to be Democrat, which are the party that has always supported abortion.
Yeah, that could very well be the case.
I know that's harsh. And I'm not calling out an individual bishop and saying that. I would try not to do that. But I really think that is how it played out among the American episcopate during that period, and maybe continues to play out in large part.
As that kind of grew, I'm going to adjust this again so I can see my screen.
Mm-hmm.
It ratcheted up. It got bigger and bigger. And in 91, there was the Summer of Mercy in Wichita. Do you remember that?
I don't remember the term Summer of Mercy, but I remember all those arrests in Wichita.
Yeah, they shut down all the abortion clinics. I think for
Mom
like
was
a
there.
whole
Aunt
summer.
Kathy was there. I don't recall if Granny B was there.
No, you're thinking of Buffalo the next summer.
Oh, okay.
It
But
happened
I remember
first
Wichita.
in Wichita, and I mean, they shut down the system. There were so many people there being arrested that they couldn't conduct abortion, and they could not handle the number of people they were arresting. It was a nightmare for the abortion providers in Wichita.
Just think if that momentum had carried.
Yeah.
It would have all ended back then.
Yeah. That was 91. In 92, they tried a similar thing in Buffalo.
Okay.
That's when our family went and was a part of that.
That's right.
Now, there was a weird thing that happened there, because this was also during the Rodney King riots.
Oh, that's right. Rodney King happened right around that time, 92, and there was some disturbances within the prisons, the jails that our mom and aunt were being kept in. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, generally how this went is you'd go, you get arrested, they process you, you have a relative or someone pick you up, and then you come back for your court date, or you don't come back for your court date, where you end up some kind of fine or something like that, or time served or something like that. Because there would be a large number of people, and they couldn't just hold them all. But in Buffalo, they took them all to jail, and then a week later, they were still in jail. And there were certain things like, I remember our Uncle Al took a bunch of clothes, cigarettes, some food, whatever he was allowed to take.
Mm-hmm.
And he had called them and said, what am I allowed to bring to prisoners there who haven't been processed yet? And they told him what he could bring. So he brought all that stuff because he's got his wife, and then I guess there was about 5 or 6 people there from our little group.
Right.
And he was bringing it for all of them. And so, but they wouldn't take them. He said, what do you mean? Well, they're not getting... The pro-lifers were getting a certain treatment that
they
the rest of the customers...
They don't get the treatment that everybody else gets.
Prisoners were not.
Right. Yeah.
It was different. And after almost 2 weeks, the law people here in Cincinnati, the name Condit, I don't know which of the Condits did this, but
okay.
The Condits called and finally talked to the judge and said, look, these aren't criminals. These are mothers. And they all have families here in Cincinnati. All they did was block business for one day, a day they probably didn't plan any abortions anyway. Can't you just give them time served? And the judge said, I'd be happy to if they would show up for court. What had happened is that a group that was not necessarily Operation Rescue, but had kind of joined up with them and linked arms with them.
Okay.
They were supposedly a Catholic group, but they were kind of charismatic.
Oh, okay.
They would go out and talk on behalf of all the people who were arrested.
Oh.
And they would tell the judges, we refuse to come to court.
And nobody
then go
else
back
knew.
To their cells. Right. So, it kind of, it popped a lot of, it threw a lot of people off because people had gone up there used to one thing. We go in, we get arrested,
this
we
is
come
how the
back.
system
Maybe
works.
we have,
right.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're in jail for 2 weeks straight. Not just in jail, but being mistreated in jail. They were mistreated in jail. Worse than most prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then here they feel like this group who was supposed to be representing them, well, they lied to them and they were mistreated by their own people. So it took a lot of air out of their balloons. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when they get back in the summer of 92, between 92 and 93, not much happened.
Right.
But here's the big thing. Number one, and I saw this happen at news agencies and I saw it happen on cable stations. They came out and declared, we are no longer going to cover this pro-life activity, these protests. So these things happen where these people are getting arrested every other week. We're not covering this.
So anybody
We're not
who's
going to
doing
talk about
that,
this.
or anybody whose family's doing that, they think, oh, you're just doing that on your own. There's nobody else doing it.
Yeah.
You're like the last stand of a movement that's already died out.
And it kind of, aside from shutting down the clinics, it served to show people this is something happening. People need to be involved in this. You can't escape the pro-life subject. And so it became, it's no longer going to get the cameras, period. Another thing that happened, 1994, the Supreme Court okayed the use of the RICO Act in combating pro-lifers, pro-life organizers.
Yeah.
So people like Randall Terry could get set up on racketeering charges for supposedly organizing terrorism. Terrorism, going into a building and sitting in. It was a sit-in. That's all it was. It was a sit-in.
Yeah, just sit in the building. Right.
And that, I would say, that leg of the movement, the Operation Rescue movement, which actually still does exist and still does happen in certain cities, it just kind of died. But it should be pointed out that they accomplished a lot. They shut down a lot of clinics, not just for days, but eventually for good. Because I think by mid-90, in the beginning, there were like 3 or 4 abortion clinics in Cincinnati, and there's one now.
Yeah, that's
that
one of those things. I think
that was because
after Roe,
of the pro-life movement.
It's like abortion became this. It's actually kind of today like so-called medical marijuana shops. They're like springing up everywhere because everybody recognizes a new way to make money. Doesn't matter how bad it is, how much damage it does. It's a new way to make money. And so everybody's springing these shops up. It was kind of like that for abortion clinics after Roe.
Yeah. And the guy who created or developed the partial birth abortion, he started here in Cincinnati.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he had 2 clinics here in Cincinnati, and they're both gone now. And it's because of it. You know what? It's not actually because of the Operation Rescue. It's because of something else, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
But because of them being allowed to use the RICO Act, and because the news was no longer going to talk about this, the pro-life Saturday morning protests, the sit-ins, and the Operation Rescue, it kind of died out. And what happened is that there was one particular group of people left. Now, I don't want to act like they're the only ones that were left.
Right.
And I don't want to act like that they were the only ones still doing stuff. But in most cities, including in Cincinnati, there was a very small group of people left. Most of them were Catholic. And most of the activity involved... You know what? Before we talk about it, I do have to say one thing. For all that time during Operation Rescue, there was a second leg of that. And those were the sidewalk counselors.
Right. So there's rescue in a double sense. One is... And I don't know if the sidewalk counseling thing, is that a national thing? Or is that something you find mostly in Cincinnati or what?
I don't know if they call it sidewalk counseling in other cities, but I know it exists in other cities. I see.
Okay.
When I drive through Indy, I see it.
Yeah.
So at the abortion clinic there.
The idea here is that, the Operation Rescue was shut down the clinic for a day, give those babies another day to live, hopefully give the mothers a chance to reconsider, and some of them will do so. And I'm sure some of them have done so. I'm sure that has borne fruit beyond just closing the clinics. There's probably people walking around today who would not be walking around if not for Operation Rescue. I don't know if any of those people who are in that position would ever learn that that's why they're walking around.
I think it's claimed that in Buffalo alone there are 10 people who are alive today because of shutting those clinics down.
However, the other is, think of it as like a targeted rescue. Okay, here's a woman coming into a clinic, presumably, or perhaps in some way it might be obvious by, it might be, by how she's walking or whatever. I don't know if the sidewalk counselors like ask them as they approach or what, but women come to the Planned Parenthood or whatever clinic to abort their babies, to have their babies killed. And so what the sidewalk counselors do is they simply intercept and say, we would like you to think about this. Here's some literature. Is there any way that you would be willing to talk to us before going through with this decision? Here's places that you can reach out, get help, whatever. There's a knack to that. I would be awful at it.
I would too.
But
don't
it's kind
kill
of
your
more
baby.
like a targeted this baby this time kind of a rescue effort.
And in the meantime, we've got again people like Right to Lifers lobbying, trying to make it more difficult to run an abortion clinic. I don't think they're all that successful, but I guess you need them. I don't know. But they are the ones who are getting all the money.
Yeah. Those are the organizations that people can donate because they get
who's
their
going to donate to a
as tax donation, tax exempt,
not
whatever,
for profit.
Right, as a nonprofit. So that's where people can give money and give write that $10,000 check and save whatever $3,000 on taxes next year.
And making themselves feel like, hey, I'm helping the problem.
Right. But you can't write that same check to a group of people who will, maybe use it to buy rosaries or maybe use it to buy donuts like our dad used to do. And that same bus.
Yeah, you know what? We should mention this.
When it wasn't parked in the driveway of a clinic, it would go every Saturday and it would just be open. It was a place to be warm in the middle of winter, and he had coffee and donuts every week for anybody who wanted to come on board. And his policy was you didn't have to be pro-life to come on board. You just come in, eat your coffee, donuts, whatever. It was just kind of open.
Sidewalk counselors would even sometimes get someone to go in there. And man, I wish I could. I'm not sure, but I think it was Grody Bakery. The donuts, those were donated.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I wish I knew who was doing it. I think it was Grody Bakery.
I think it was Grody. I think you're right.
So it was, that was our Saturday as we were growing up. Yeah. And as that started to end, but okay, here's the thing. When you think about the fight against abortion, you've got the fight that happens in the lobbies, in politics.
The halls of power, right.
Which I don't know what to say about it because it's never going to be in your face anti-abortion. Mm-hmm. That won't happen because they're politicians. And you could say that about all politicians. Politicians are weak. They're not good people. Yeah. They never have been.
It's almost by definition. You have to be a little bit smarmy to be a politician by definition almost.
Yeah, it's like used car salesman, you know? So and the people who interact with the politicians, like the politicians, are going to be the same way. They're the ones raising the money, and they have to put on a smile and a good face and not say the wrong words as to tick off people. And I think that's probably always going to be there too. But they are not the pro-life movement.
Right.
They're the ones who organize 30 days or 40 days for life and Hands Across America. And if you say, one of the problems here is that people think they're part of the pro-life movement because they went to 40 days for life.
Right.
It's like, I did my part. And it's like, well, what did you do? I went to 40 days for life. Okay. Well, that, they're killing babies in there, right?
How about the 365 days a year for life?
Yeah.
That's the pro-life movement.
Yeah. If you go past an abortion clinic, most of the time on any given day, you will see people there.
Yeah. Those are the pro-life movement.
Yeah. These other people who are raising money are doing exactly that. They're raising money.
They're raising money. And
If abortion was criminalized, what would their job be?
They would stop having
You might
a job.
think about that.
That's true. They almost exist in a symbiotic relationship with the abortion industry. I mean, that perhaps is a little bit harsher than it should be, but there's a very real sense to that. There are professional pro-lifers.
Yeah.
And just think about what that means. It shouldn't be that way. I mean, if you, one of our listeners, one of our 6 listeners, want to go be pro-life, stake out an abortion clinic. Just go stake out an abortion clinic over the course of a few days. At some point, you'll see somebody there who's obviously there in order to try to either sidewalk counsel or protest or whatever. Walk up to them and say, you know what? I would like to help you accomplish what you're doing. What can I do?
Yeah.
That's how you join. That's how you become pro-life.
Right. I'm trying to organize this information, and then I keep realizing, no, you need to talk about this before the rest of it makes sense.
That's okay. Take your time.
Okay, so, as I said, the big protests died down, and what you have are a group of Catholics. And along comes this movement.
Now, hold on. So anyway, what I was, you said that once the fire movement sort of died down, it was successfully somewhat tamped out by, collusion between the media, and, a few other things.
Yeah.
The sort of remnant, the people who stayed on and simply stayed at it, sort of shoulder to the grindstone, sidewalk counseling, protesting every week, that kind of stuff. Those people were, for the most part, Catholic.
Yeah.
Why? Why didn't the on-fire Protestants also, even if they weren't going to be getting arrested anymore, why didn't they just keep coming week after week like that?
Because they ran out of things to do. And here's what I mean. When you don't have a movement when you don't have an objective, like let's shut down this clinic for the day. Well, if you do that, you're going to spend the next month in jail. Okay, well, let's do something else. What do we do? I don't know. But the Catholics have an answer for this.
Oh, okay. Right.
Let's go in front of the clinic and say the rosary.
Yeah. Call
Thus
down
begins
the power of the Mother of God.
And so Monsignor Riley, I don't even know what city he started in. Queens of Martyrs, Queens Boulevard. Where is this? I mean, I'll get the zip code and I'll find out where that is. New York.
I was thinking it must be
Queens, New York. Yeah. Queens, New York. This is, if I understand it right, this is the guy who started doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it moved to various places. What they're talking about in the state of Michigan. I don't know. Anyway, he would find a church close to, or at least whoever wanted to start doing this in their city, find a church close to a clinic, go there for Mass and exposition of the Eucharist, and then have a procession to the closest abortion mill and pray the rosary there and come back for benediction. That's it. It's called the Helper's Mass.
Okay.
The Helpers of God's Precious Infants.
Yeah.
It was powerful. It worked. It shut down a lot of clinics. And if you want to know where the pro-life movement is, that is still going on. Now, it's bigger and smaller in different cities. And I know it still happens in Cincinnati. It's not as big as it used to be. Again, there's only one clinic left in Cincinnati. There's only one place to get an abortion. They used to even have it like at Jewish Hospital used to do it. And a couple of the different hospitals do it. They've even, because I remember protesting at those hospitals.
Right.
But this is the Catholic response, and this is kind of what took over in the mid-90s. And I guess, I mean, it's not like Protestants wouldn't be, I understand they don't want to say the rosary. But they could do sidewalk counseling as this is going on, or even just stand there with a sign. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they had nowhere to go or nothing to do. It's just that
it wasn't.
They don't feel like that's doing
like
anything.
An immediate objective.
And we know it is.
Right. That's right. Okay. But Catholics have always had more of a, prayer and silent witness kind of mentality.
Yeah. Randall Terry, apparently, I didn't know this, but he still does do rescue missions, just not the same way.
Okay.
They go from city to city, and they go to the cathedrals.
Okay.
And they say the rosary outside the cathedrals to try to wake up these bishops and get them moving. That is smart.
Yeah, okay.
So, on the one hand, yeah, the pro-life movement is a bunch of wimps who won't use strong language, won't use strong pictures, won't talk about really what's happening. On the other hand, that's not so. It depends on what part of the movement you're talking about, because it's still grassroots at the bottom level. Mm-hmm. It's just that we don't get included in the, Hands Across America or the 40 Days of Life. That's not our shtick. I mean,
40 Days for Life, that's...
What does that actually do for
That's
anyone?
nice and well, the thing is, it's like respectable, it's clean sounding, it's inoffensive.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed not to bother anybody.
It makes people think they're being a part of the pro-life movement when they're really not.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And to me, that's always the way I thought of it, and I still think of it that way.
Yeah.
But, another thing that we got to talk about here is, aside from the sidewalk counseling, there needs to be something other than that, and it does focus on women to try to keep them from aborting their babies.
Yeah.
If you're going to call yourself a Christian, you have to recognize that this should be a part of it.
Right. I mean, the mother's soul is still an eternal soul. And if she is, sucked into abortion, if she goes and slaughters her baby, there's an eternal consequence to that if she's unrepentant. But how...
2 eternal consequences.
Here's the thing. Possibly 2, because the baby... We don't know what happens to aborted babies. We don't know whether there's, theologically speaking, limbo. There's some who say, oh, well, they're treated as martyrs. We don't know that.
If you say you're definitely sure about that, well, then you're wrong. Because
to be sure, yeah. I mean, you might be correct in the statement itself, but you're wrong in your surety.
Because we do not know.
We don't know. So these, and the fact is, the mothers are the ones who are making the decision. The babies are at the mercy of the mothers. And so winning the mothers' hearts has to be a big part of it. And besides, winning the mothers' souls, that has to be part of every Christian's desire.
Yeah.
In fact, isn't it Fatima, one of the visions, the vision of hell? And wasn't it that Mary was saying there are so many souls that are going to hell, you have to be ardent in trying to pray for and help souls, help convert sinners so they don't go to hell.
Yeah, didn't she mention the fact that there's a lot of people in hell simply because there was no one to pray for them?
Right, exactly. So this is the kind of stuff that you have to also take on as part of being anti-abortion. Not only anti-abortion, okay, I'm against slaughtering babies, which ought to be kind of like obvious, but anti-abortion in the sense that I want not just to prevent the mother from doing something she might regret. That's not really the point. The point is to convert people. And if you think of it as, okay, this is our society makes it so easy to remain unconverted. Yeah. You can go along, like a man can go along and just live his life and never be faced with one of those moments where you have to really decide what you believe in, where you stand, what direction are you going to go with your life. But a woman, okay, she conceives a baby, she's got a baby in her womb, and she's carrying around a baby in her body, and it's unexpected, unwanted maybe. She thinks, oh my, this is going to ruin my life, whatever. And so there's the solution presented to her. She's in a position now to be able not only to just say, okay, I won't have that baby, or I won't abort that baby. I'll have the baby, give it up for adoption, whatever. That would be kind of like the minimalist. But she's in a position to recognize that all of the forces of society that put her at that brink of being about to kill her own baby, how evil that is, and the salvation from that evil in the church. That's the conversion. Not just not killing her baby, but in the act of deciding that, entering into a path that leads to real membership in the church, which is the saved people of God.
Hence, we have organizations like Pregnancy Center, or it's gone by a few different names throughout the years.
Problem Pregnancy Center, Birthright, that offer the counseling for women that hey,
and sometimes
don't
even,
go this route. We will help you figure out the life logistics of it.
Yeah, these are important places.
Yeah,
they and they're not to be just kind of whatever. This has to be a part of it.
Yeah,
it just has to. If you're going to be anti-abortion, you have to be pro-solution as well. Mm-hmm. That's just. I'm not one of those people who think you can be pro-solution and that's all, but you do have to have a solution for it.
Yeah.
And that is one of the big solutions that have helped save lots of babies. Because
honestly, I think it has, there's no way for us to know this side of the eschaton, but I bet these kinds of organizations have helped save a lot of souls.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I know that they've done like polls and stuff to see, to ask people, when are the moments when you decided to become a Christian as opposed to a secularist or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there are certain turning points in most people's lives, or there are certain points at people's lives where they do this. Number one is when they're a kid. Number two is, say, when they turn 18 or 21 and they have to start deciding for themselves. For a lot of people, it's when they get married. And for an awful lot of people, it's that first child.
Oh, right.
It's when you suddenly realize
child does something to you.
Yeah, you can't be the same person anymore. Not all people answer that call.
Right.
But a lot do.
But and so if you can just get the mother to say, okay, I'll carry the baby to term. Well, wait a minute. That act itself can end up being an invitation to grace.
And if she's being helped by people to do that,
mm-hmm.
it now becomes... There's nothing wrong with us being attractive. Like, oh, these people are good people. They care about people.
Yeah.
They, I don't have a problem with fighting, but we need to know when to fight. And with a mother who's considering abortion, that's not necessarily the time to fight. At least not with the mother.
Right, right.
Now, the question has come up of, okay, what kind of consequence should there be for mothers who choose to have an abortion? And I'm not even...
That's so far down the road, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get to the point of criminalizing first. Well, I mean, obviously the first step is to criminalize the performance of the act, which is the doctor, the so-called doctor. They're not really doctors, the abortionists.
You eliminate the ease of which a woman might make that decision first.
And then when, let's for a moment accept the myth of the back alley abortions, which I think was a myth that it was never a real thing anyway. But let's accept that myth for a moment. Then
I think it was mostly prostitutes who would fall into that.
Yeah, probably. Now that it's back alley, okay, then you can say, okay, the everybody involved is indictable on some kind of crime. Then in that case,
But the thing is, again, let's not forget that most of the people being aborted are black and poor.
Mm-hmm.
These are women who are in positions that they've been used, not just by say their boyfriends, but by the state. But systematically, they've been used and brought under a welfare system that has encouraged them not to have families in the traditional sense.
Right.
And we know this exists. There's something wrong with you if you would deny this, that the people in the welfare system have been manipulated to not just get there, but stay there. And it's that same kind of manipulation that would drive them to an abortion clinic.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're free of guilt in any way, shape, or form, but when you see a junkie, your first instinct isn't to punish him.
Right. I mean, he's just jonesing really, really bad or whatever. It's like, okay, whatever circumstances led him here. Well, think of it this way. Because I was thinking about this the other day, in a kind of a different context, but I think it still works. Think of somebody who is raised in a tribe of cannibals.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, what the heck? Like Robinson Crusoe, his man Friday, right? He was raised a cannibal.
I never read that.
Okay, so whatever. Just think of somebody raised in a tribe of, from the time that they're young, from the time that maybe even like too young to even start understanding the difference between right and wrong. We say the age of reason, around 7, around there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say like from the age of 5, they're participating in their tribal ritual, murders of either somebody captured from another tribe or somebody who's sick in their own tribe or whatever it is. And they're just raised that way. Okay, so now as an adult, they go and they behave the way that they were raised to do. Well, are they free of guilt for, the other tribe members that they murder and that kind of stuff? Well, no. But at the same time, it's like you kind of, when you think of them as a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old and think about what that means they're going to become, you got to have you kind of feel sorry for them at that 5-year-old age, that's how they're being trained and brought up.
Right.
And so when you think of, okay, there's people in American society that are brought up in a way that they're just kind of told again and again, and they're treated again and again in a way to suppress that motherly instinct. And then they end up with a baby inside of them, and it's like, well, the obvious solution is go get an abortion. Okay, obviously they're not wholly unaccountable for that, but at the same time, there's a whole lot of other people that you blame for them being there, and even for them following through with the decision.
Yeah, and if they're not one of the ones fighting for the right to cannibalize, well then, do you really need to have the fight with them?
Right.
You know what I mean? These women who are going to get abortions, they're not necessarily the ones out there fighting for abortion rights.
They're not lobbying their congressmen. They're not giving speeches. They're just trying to live a life that they feel is an impossible situation. And
so, in a sense, they are one of the victims.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
I don't tend to extend to them a victim status the way we would with the babies, but
they're a victim in the same way a boy growing up in in a cannibal tribe as a victim, or a young man who, these various military groups like in Africa or whatever, Sudanese, they come into a village, they kill everybody, but they take the young children, put a gun in their hands, and say, okay, you got to help us kill the other people in your village. And they make them do it. And then they grow them up to be soldiers. At that point, they're victims, though.
Or the way a junkie is introduced at a young age to a fun life of, heroin or whatever drug. And, I guess when you're 12, did you always make the best decisions? But if heroin's always around as a 12-year-old and you're experimenting, it wasn't there for me, so I wouldn't have made that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, wow, some of the things that are temptations today, if they were as available when I was 12, it's like, wow.
I don't know. Yeah.
My life would have just gone a whole different direction.
Right. So I'm not saying we should have our whole movement around the, quote, the women who are, quote, victims, but they are, in a sense, victims.
You've got to recognize that as well.
Right. Now, I do think they're making too big of a deal of it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like, come on, okay, but they are killing their babies.
Yeah. I mean, you
that has to be recognized.
Well, what was the women exploited by abortion? Weba.
Yeah.
Right? Was that a Cincinnati thing, or is that national?
I think that's national, but I know there's a couple different brands of that.
Groups like that. Okay. Or like what was it, like Rachel's Vineyard?
Orchard Rachel's Vineyard, yeah.
So anyway, but the thing is, these groups, they recognize the victimhood. They seek out to treat the women themselves as victims, but not by rationalizing out. Like, I remember having a discussion with somebody who was part of one of these groups or knew somebody who was, and there was a woman that, had an abortion, and she ended up getting sent to that group. Well, she came back and she said, "Oh my, those are horrible people. Why did you send me there?" Well, it turned out that she, the reason she felt that was because she was not ready to face her own actions, because what they do in these groups is they say, and they, make it clear, you killed your baby.
Yeah.
That's what we have to help you recover from. Not that, they don't couch it in flowery language or sugarcoat it. You killed your baby. That's the starting point. Now let's start working about how you seek forgiveness from God and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. There was one more point that I wanted to make about all this. Let me think here.
Wow, I did not know that Randall Terry became Catholic, and that just really excites me. That made my day.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know either. That's why I was over there just, like I said, filling in a few holes I couldn't quite remember, and then she said that he's Catholic, and come on.
You know who else became Catholic before he died? And he never became what you would call a leader, but he certainly became a force within, I guess, because of his turnaround, is Dr. Bernard Nathanson, the silent scream doctor.
Yeah, I did know that.
And he estimated that he had performed somewhere over 70,000 abortions. Well, he eventually became Catholic before he died. I mean, that's a powerful conversion. When you think of somebody who, in order to accept the grace of Christ and come into the church, he has to also accept that he has done all of this evil, and yet to see the possibility of forgiveness and Christ's mercy.
Yeah. I guess, one of the final points here is that the problem of these wimpy pro-lifers, it's the same today as it was in the 80s. And if you're looking for a way to combat that or a way out of it, then don't start with the popular movements that are advertised at your local church.
Right. Ignore them.
Go to an abortion clinic and find out what the real pro-lifers do.
You'll at
The
any
ones
abortion
on the
clinic
ground.
in almost any city, you will find the on the ground troopers. Talk to them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I want to help you. That's how you help the pro-life. That's the pro-life movement.
Yeah. I guess that's... I know there was something else that was right on the tip of my head. I thought, I should mention this. But I just don't remember what it is now.
Well,
Okay.
Okay, I'll mention something and maybe it'll cause you to think of it. But this is going back to our sort of launching
I do
off
have
point.
to step away from the thing for a minute here.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
This is going back to our launching off point of that podcast, the Timothy Gordon podcast. And his main point was anti-abortion, not pro-life. But in the context of that podcast, they actually talked about a lot of different things. But one of the things that they talked about it's kind of two things but related. But specifically they got into the work of Abby Johnson, who I think everybody knows used to be the Planned Parenthood. What was she, like a director at a Planned Parenthood or a manager or something like that? Like an administrator of Planned Parenthood, and she sort of saw the light, and now she's very anti-abortion. But she falls into maybe what Timothy Gordon would classify as a feminist in some degrees, and maybe she is. And he, but the thing that he pointed out was, hey, wait a minute. One of the things we should not be doing in the pro-life movement is having prior bad actors be our leaders and sort of front persons. Now, to the extent that we've just like covered in this whole podcast, she's not really, because the so-called pro-life movement that she is involved in is the more polite pro-life movement. It's the right to life, the 40 days.
She's a trophy.
And all sorts of things like that. But here's the thing that I want to say about that, though. In terms of any kind of like leadership position in a cause like anti-abortion, is that if somebody steps into if there's not something being done that ought to be done, and then somebody steps into it, you can't really criticize them for doing that as a prior bad actor. In other words, it's like, okay, but who else was going to do it? Nobody was doing it until they started doing it. And now that's getting done. Okay, you've got to accept that as a win.
And would you complain about Mary Magdalene or
That's a good point. I never even thought of it in those terms. Yeah, Mary Magdalene as then one of the most devoted followers of Jesus.
But aside from that, okay, I never cared for the movie they made about her. I thought it was dumb.
Oh yeah, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I guess it's worth watching once, but I didn't consider it inspiring in any way, shape, or form.
That's because you grew up around Joe Martin.
Yeah, I was with the real pro-lifers. His point was that his buddy had made a talk, and it was kind of harsh. Mm-hmm. He played it on his podcast. I couldn't hear a word of it. I never did hear a single thing.
Me neither.
He should do something about his
clean it up,
audio.
Maybe,
problems. He often has audio problems on his show.
Was that live? Is that why he didn't clean it up? Because he had one shot.
That could have been it. The recording I heard was just a bunch of echo and and I'm like,
Me too.
I don't know what they're saying. I have bad hearing anyway, so I do a lot to make sure that the audio on our podcast is as clear as possible.
Yeah, guys. For every hour that we record, Eric probably spends 3 or 4 hours producing.
Well, not that much.
I'm just making that up.
Maybe I found a way to make it faster.
Okay.
It used to be that used to be true.
Wow.
But
Wow. It's amazing we're still recording then.
Yeah. But I've found ways to make this go a lot faster. But anyway, his buddy had done a talk at this pro-life event, and it had been erased.
Right.
Because it was too harsh. Again, you're with the wrong people. That's all I can tell you.
Right. Yep.
If you want to do good for the pro-life community, and if you're a talking head, quit spending time with those people and go to the streets. That's where you'll find the pro-life movement.
And then talk about
and
them.
give
them
give them
exposure.
some publicity.
Help other people know what real pro-lifers are doing.
Yeah. I mean, because this is, again, these are the people who collect money. That's their job. Is that how you want to be pro-life?
Pro-life, yeah, exactly. Right.
Is to keep collecting money for these lobbyists or whatever they do, and the quote education that is always careful not to show a dead baby. I don't know. Hey, if you want to know what pro-life is, then get out of your house and get out of the hotels and go to the streets.
Right.
You'll find it. Believe me, they're there.
Right. But the other thing I wanted to say is regarding Abby Johnson. I mean, whether she's appropriate as a so-called leader of the pro-life movement, regardless of whether she's, fully converted to a complete, non-feminist Catholics, regardless of any of that stuff, here's the thing. Her particular ministry or her particular outreach, however you want to think of it, is people who are in the abortion industry, not the mothers. I mean, obviously she works for them and feels for them, not the babies. Obviously she cares about them, but the people who are in the abortion industry and giving them a path out of that industry. That doesn't exist anywhere else as a specific outreach. And I think that's also something that's needed.
Yeah. Yeah. In any movement, there are a lot of legs.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different people doing different things, and people give in any way they can. And we went through a few. The Operation Rescue, the Helpers Mass, the Sidewalk Counselors, the Pregnancy Problem Center. I didn't even know that was her ministry. There's another leg.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that she gets a lot of face time, that's kind of irritating. It irritates me, too, because I see the people on the streets not getting any face time.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
No one knows who Joe Martin is.
Right.
People ought to know who Joe Martin is. The guy's insane. It's, if nothing else than for the entertainment value of knowing him. Someday I'm going to write a book about the guy. But yeah, okay. I know as soon as we stop recording, I'm going to think, I meant to talk about this. Oh,
well,
yeah, I know.
Notes.
Even in the political side of this, because the political side we all know of is the side that we've all learned to not trust and dislike, and they're not really pro-life.
Even in the mid-late 80s, it was common rhetoric among the real pro-life movement that the two parties are basically the same anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, even, Reagan, this pro-life president, the first pro-life president, it was like he wouldn't touch us with a 10-foot pole.
You know what? I cut
Trump
Reagan
was the first one.
I don't know whether Reagan wouldn't touch us with a 10-foot pole or whether he just didn't see the need. Because in Reagan's day, I mean, you're talking, he was elected initially in 1980, and his main administrative focus and accomplishment was the downfall of the Soviet Union, although it didn't include a complete defeat of communism, unfortunately. But I kind of cut him a little bit of slack because he fell into that era where somebody who's a little bit isolated and a little bit naive about history could still believe, without being a complete dunderhead, that abortion was going to be taken care of and there didn't need to be a full-fledged movement.
Yeah.
That's why I cut him that slack.
Okay. I didn't cut George Bush that slack.
No, it was obvious by the time. Now, I don't know. I think George Bush the son was a little bit better in that regard than George Bush Sr., wasn't he?
Yeah.
Although none of them
bit,
showed up at the March for Life.
Right.
Which was, the March for Life was kind of like a amalgam. Most of it was probably the polite pro-life, like you would think of.
Yeah, most of it is.
But you could get in there as one of the scrappy ones too.
But it also, it was enough to keep the real movement going because it shows us year after year.
There's a lot of support for this. Yeah.
The country's still behind us. We still need to fight this.
And the fact that they caved.
No
I
need
agree
to
with
give
Gordon
up.
on this. The fact that they caved on COVID and turned it into
my goodness.
Yeah, that was awful.
My goodness. Yeah, that's terrible. But it's what you would expect these people to do.
Yeah. Right.
The sidewalk counselors didn't stop going down there. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm. Right. COVID did not stop the real pro-life movement.
Yeah. And I know for a fact Mom went to that helper's mass every Saturday during all that time. She probably wasn't wearing a mask. No one was. But anyway, the political movement, there was also a grassroots movement. Mm-hmm. A political side to it after the Operation Rescue died.
Yes.
You remember it.
Yes.
And
now that was in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I don't know if it took place anywhere else.
It did happen in a couple other cities.
Did it? Okay.
It did happen in a couple cities at once. It was eventually defeated.
It was an attempt to take over the Republican Party by filling it with people at the precinct and ward level. Precinct captains, ward chairmen, and so on and so forth, because everything flows up from them, who would then, in the Republican Party committees of the cities and then eventually of the states, be committed to only endorsing candidates who were solidly pro-life, solidly against abortion.
And that was, I don't know if it was like a 4-year or an 8-year project. It was a long time. I know that. And we put a lot of time into that.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, our house growing up, well, not growing up, but in those years, our house was sort of the real headquarters.
It was the center. Yeah.
It was the headquarters for the movement in Cincinnati.
Yeah. And there were people there. You go down 3 a.m, there's a group of people at a table with papers,
stuffing envelopes, filling flyers, whatever.
It's like,
I mean, our dad had a printing press, so that made that, valuable, and he was fully committed. And that in itself was something, because didn't he find that in the garbage? Oh gosh, yeah, he did. I remember helping him pick that up. He in fact, he almost broke, the lift that he built where the cellar stairs used to be.
Yeah.
And he almost broke that lift getting it down into the basement because it was.
But I think he made that lift specifically for the press.
That could be, yeah. So he needed to get a printing press down into the basement. So in order to there was just like a big offset printing press. It was not newspaper size, but printing room size. And he so he thought, well, I got to get this down in the basement. So he tore out the stairs and built a lift. But I think it almost broke the lift because it was so heavy.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how he got that thing out of there. It's gone
well, that's
now.
true. How did he get it out of the basement? That must have been...
I have no idea.
Even more trouble.
I think he gave it away for scrap.
Uh-huh.
So scrappers are like, yeah, we'll do anything to get that out of there because that sucker's going to be worth some money.
Well, that's funny because that's... You'll think of that line again.
Yeah. But so it was a big movement and it took a long time and it was eventually kind of just defeated. Mm-hmm. And there was a point at which everybody realized the Republican Party is so well infiltrated by nothing but just, I don't even know what you call them. They're
political animals. I mean,
they're cowards.
They're
just
politicians.
They're disgusting.
Say it in its most smarmy, context and meaning, there were politicians, and not only
even
the
at the
party,
bottom levels,
but even the judiciary. I mean, we've known judges have been awful for a while.
Yeah.
But like the Ohio Supreme Court acknowledged that these were the platform Republicans, is what they were called. Acknowledged,
yeah, that's right,
that they were technically correct in their assertion that they had successfully captured leadership, acquired leadership of the Republican Party committee in Hamilton County. And they said,
but they just ignored us.
We're not gonna, we're gonna still rule for the other side. In other words, they granted the finding in fact and then ruled for the other side just because they felt like it would be too disruptive that people were able to do that.
Yeah.
That's how smarmy. This is the judges who should be, politically aloof.
It came down to a meeting where, it ended up, they were kind of thrown out eventually.
What happened was they had
the cops there and everything.
The platform Republicans, following exactly and strictly the bylaws of the Republican Committee of Hamilton County, acquired the necessary signatures and then necessary attendance.
No.
What are you saying?
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying no.
Okay.
Because Bella's trying to open a box of a giant. Here, give me that.
Oh, she's going to cut herself.
Yeah, she's going to cut her finger off.
Okay. So anyway, the platform Republicans, following the bylaws of the Republican Party of Hamilton County, acquired the necessary signatures for a ad hoc meeting for leadership election, performed the meeting, executed the meeting exactly according to the bylaws, and elected new leaders for the Hamilton County Republican Committee.
Yeah.
It was completely by the books. They went into the headquarters, presumed to sit down, take over, and then there was obviously a big thing. It got all the way to the Ohio Supreme Court. The Ohio Supreme Court said, yep, you actually did follow the bylaws by the letter, but we're still going to rule in favor of the prior committee leadership.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if state Supreme Court judges are not willing to apply the letter of the law, what are you left with?
Right. So guess what Bella just showed me?
Okay.
A Spinosaurus tooth.
Spinosaurus tooth?
Yeah.
What's a Spinosaurus? I never heard of that.
Spinosaurus, look it up. Google it real quick. And it's Spinosaurus. That's pretty cool. So she's got a prehistoric tooth here.
That's what was in the box she was opening?
Yeah.
So, with provenance papers that show that that's what it really is and stuff?
Well, that's what they advertised it as. I don't know.
Whoa.
How would you prove it?
It says it's the largest of all known terrestrial carnivores. That must be even bigger than... It's not a water base, and it must be bigger than Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah, but the tooth we have is, I don't know, about an inch long, inch and a half maybe. There are bigger ones you can get, but it's pretty cool,
Suggests that it was 41 to 59 feet in length. Wow, so this thing is bigger, technically, than Tyrannosaurus Rex or Gigantosaurus. Yeah. Wow, and she's got a tooth, huh?
Yeah.
Neat. Take a picture.
Cool.
Put it on our
okay.
Put it on our podcast site.
Thing. Yeah. So our point in talking about all that is that even the grassrooting pro-lifers tried that political move that the quote the 40 Days for Life people are doing now.
Right.
The right to lifers.
Yeah.
We tried that, and that's why we know the right to lifers are wasting their time.
Yeah.
I
agree that you have to keep
now maybe
some
they're
kind
not.
of pressure
I don't
on.
know, but
I mean, I agree with the I would not want to see them go away. but that's not where it's at.
But Donald Trump was the first politician to bring real movement in the pro-life
Yeah, but you know why?
Because he went from the top down instead of the bottom up.
No, that's not why.
Why?
It's because he wasn't a politician.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, you apply to politician, the term politician, with all the smarminess and ugliness that it includes. But the one person who has occupied the White House that doesn't apply to at all is Donald Trump.
And he wasn't embarrassed of it.
No.
He wasn't afraid to show his face with us and say, I'm one of you and they're one of me. And suddenly we could possibly see a start to the end happening this summer. We don't know.
See how that goes. Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous about that one.
Yeah, I'm not real hopeful.
I'm nervous about all those who are predicting, because it's like, okay, all these that are predicting get everybody's hopes up, and then it doesn't happen. And then what's going to happen? Is that just going to be another blow that swipes another 30% of people away from the ability to kind of keep moving forward with the movement?
Yeah. It's nerve-wracking, but if it happens, it is because of Trump.
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all. Second of all, if it happens, I hope we don't waste that momentum.
No, we got to re-energize the momentum in all the states all at once.
Yeah, and we got to re-energize the grassroots.
That's
again.
Right. That's right.
So, okay, that's about all I had to say.
I don't think I have anything else.
All right. Well, let's talk about news.
All right.
Again, we're going to start off with Russia. First and foremost, the Pope Francis has sent, they're calling it an invitation order. I don't see that big of a difference. I don't think, but he's asking the bishops to make the consecration. He does say to the entire human race, but he also mentions specifically Russia and Ukraine, which I see different texts from Sister Lucia. And I know in one of them I saw that Jesus and Mary were asking the Pope to consecrate the world, especially Russia, to her Immaculate Heart and to his Sacred Heart. It seems I thought I remember seeing that, but I do know there's several different texts describing what is needed. And if you listen to our last week's podcast, we went into a lot more detail and talked about the fact that anyone who claims to know everything about this is lying, because there's a lot of things we don't have any way of knowing about this entire subject. So it looks to me like Pope Francis is doing what Mary asked. And apparently at this point, even those people who think Pope Benedict is the Pope are going to be satisfied here, because Pope Benedict's going to be a part of it. Now, I don't, well, he's not leading it. Well, who cares? It's still the bishops of all the way. I think, I don't know. There are some people who will never be happy. Because even those people don't know exactly what Sister Lucia said. But we do know that this is coming this Friday. To me, it's huge. And I think we should be grateful for that. And let's see what happens.
I'm even a little bit excited for it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Say a rosary that day, at least.
Everybody else joins. Say your rosary.
Yeah. Now, I guess Russia has banned... It hasn't banned YouTube yet, but it's considering it. But it has banned Facebook and Instagram as extremist sites. And it's also banned Euronews from Russian... I don't know. How do they do that? How does Russia ban a website?
They have...
They just...
They have
they control the ISPs
that are on the edges of traffic coming into their country and stuff like that, that have really, really smart software to detect where the traffic's coming from, because like when you encrypt like HTTPS, for example, okay, so it's encrypted,
Yeah.
but all you're doing is encrypting the content. You're not encrypting the source or destination of the communication. Right. And so they're able to do that. And they're, okay, wait a minute. These are the sets of IP addresses that map to the servers that provide, say, YouTube video or whatever. Now, the thing is, well, okay, well, then in order to really be complete, they have to then also find IP addresses of servers that supply...
proxy.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking like server-side proxies. It's like, okay, well, I want to get to YouTube, but I don't want it to be obvious that YouTube is what I'm getting to. So, yeah, I don't know if they can completely do it, and I think such things are still not quite popularly used, so that it would still put a big dent in people who end up being able to view, say, YouTube or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And it would make a lot of people scared to use it because they don't want to go to jail.
Right.
So, an anti-NATO protest is held in Bulgaria. They're opposing Bulgaria from selling weapons to Ukraine. So I didn't even know there was... Up until now, I haven't seen any anti-NATO protests.
Yeah.
But I think they exist, and I think they exist more than we know.
Oh.
Especially, and I'll bet they exist in Ukraine.
Anti-NATO, because they don't want Ukraine to join NATO.
Yeah. They would rather Ukraine join Russia or maintain independence.
Yeah, just be Ukraine.
There are two sections of Ukraine that have broken off of Ukraine. They're calling themselves independent.
Oh.
They're not calling themselves part of Russia, and I don't think Russia's attacking them.
That's interesting.
Let's see. I guess Mariupol is one of the cities that they're fighting in.
Right.
Russia gives them till 5... On Monday, Russia gave them till 5 a.m. to surrender the city. Ukraine said, no, we're not going to surrender the city. And I guess it was later that Russia attacks, and they have forcefully deported several thousand people from that city to various places in Russia. So they're taking Ukrainians, and I have to think these are some kind of like, re-education camps, maybe gulags.
Oh, the places in Russia.
Yeah, they're taking them to camps or remote cities in Russia. If I'm reading this right, they're taking Ukrainians in a city that's been conquered or nearly conquered, and they are taking them out of Ukraine to Russia, which would be scary.
Yeah.
I mean, we all saw... I mean, you can't forget those gulags and the kind of things that were happening and, people disappearing and being sent to 20 years of hard labor because no free market existed. The only way to get work done was to force people to do it. And it's hard to force someone to do it when you're also offering them, welfare or whatever they want to call it. So a lot of the work was done by gulags.
Right.
Especially the heavy labor like mining, maybe farming, I don't know. But I don't know. The whole region, Russia and Ukraine, are so messed up. Vladimir Putin has agreed to meet with Zelensky. Zelensky says he's ready to meet with Putin.
Okay.
I don't think a date has been set yet, but Zelensky is saying that he will consider dropping Ukraine's quest to join NATO in exchange for a ceasefire. And I don't know what's going to come out of that, but
out of it.
yeah, both of them could just be talking as they continue to do what they're doing. But because I think Zelensky's going to either end up dead or in a camp at the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to continue to be president no matter what, or whatever, leader they have over there. Russia's not. I don't think they're just going to leave him there. He's. I don't know. That's all my news about Russia.
Okay. What about other news?
The big news is about the Pope. I don't have much of the other news because we're still only normally we record on Thursdays, but it's Tuesday and it's early on Tuesday, so I'm missing like 3 days. But Kanakaw 1915 bridge is open for traffic. This is a bridge that goes between the European and Asian continents. It's in Turkey and... Oh, that's all Turkey. Okay, it spans across a strait, but both ends are in Turkey.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it's 4.608. That doesn't make sense.
Miles?
This is wrong. Hold on. I'm sorry. 4,608 meters.
Oh, okay. Okay. And this one is like the Mackinac Bridge is 1,158 meters. So almost 4 times as long as the bridge to Mackinac Island. Regardless, it's a freaking long bridge.
It is a really long bridge. Suspension bridge. It's 2-point-something miles. Anyway, it's a big old bridge, and it's open for traffic. World's longest suspension bridge.
Ooh, wow.
South Korea claims that North Korea has fired more short-range missile, multiple rocket launcher into the sea from a multiple rocket launcher.
Like testing?
What I don't understand, I guess so.
It has to be
testing. But how long has he been doing this? For a long time now. Why do we care?
Yeah.
He keeps shooting rockets into the sea, or maybe into the wherever. I mean, it's like, okay, he can shoot test missiles. I understand you don't want him testing missiles, but do we shoot that many test missiles? Does anyone? Why do we pay so much attention?
Is that a lot compared to what other people do? I don't know.
Because it's like, we already know that he tests missiles, but apparently he doesn't use them. He just keeps testing them, you know? Mm-hmm. You'd be like, I'm going to practice this, and I'm going to keep practicing it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't hurt anyone. Maybe he's just trying to goad North Korea. Because this has been going on forever. And suddenly it hit me today. Why am I even talking about this? So what if he fired another missile? He's been firing them forever. Doesn't anyone decide suddenly, you know what, let's just ignore him and not talk about it and see what he does? Oh well. Did you hear about the Boeing in China? Boeing 737 NG kills 132 people.
Oh, no, I didn't.
The plane was at 20,000 feet, and it just went straight down.
Wow. That's how many people were on board?
Yeah. I think it was that problem that those Boeings had with the... No, but I thought that happened either at takeoff or at landing. This seems more like a thing where it just... I don't know. But a Boeing crashed in China, killing 132 people on board.
Wow.
It descended 20,000 feet in just over a minute.
That's more people than Russia killed in Mariupol, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry. I have to snark at the news is reporting at this stuff.
Yeah, they keep talking. 5 people died in an attack on a hospital. It's like,
yeah,
5?
Okay, and then later, like 3 days later, you find out they were all soldiers or something like that.
Yeah, because as they report deaths throughout the news stories, they all say so many people died.
Yeah,
and they don't ever say citizens anymore because people were getting onto that. Yeah. They're like, wait a minute, these are soldiers.
Right.
Of course they died. That's what you do in a war.
To die.
That's all the news I got.
Okay. Well, I got some news. Not a whole lot. A little bit. All right. Let's see. First one. Okay. This is just kind of funny. I mean, if you like nature movies and you like animals, this is just funny. It's fun to watch. It's a a video. Did you get my email, by the way? I sent you these.
Wait a minute. I've got a bunch of Walmart emails.
Forget the Walmart. That's later.
Oh,
Go to the
okay.
first email
All right.
below all the Walmarts.
Okay.
So, first link on that email is and there's actually a video of it, and it's pretty funny. A bear like climbs into a pig sty,
Ah.
and while he's like getting attacked, he finally runs away.
The bear runs
The
away?
bear runs away, and eventually
Wow.
you see him climb.
Holy cow.
You see him climb back out of the pig sty. He's like he doesn't know what.
And
to
here
do.
comes the other pig.
I know.
There's two pigs.
Look, there he goes. He's gone.
I'm kicking your ass.
It's like,
Wow.
who would have thought?
And the bear's like twice
Twice the
at
size
least
of
twice
those. I
the
mean,
same
it's
size.
like
maybe 3 times.
it's like our brother Jason running away from a couple of midgets or something.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. That bear's probably embarrassed.
He will not be telling that story to his buddies.
Like, he stands...
He's the
He gets out of the gate.
Yeah, there were like 30 of them, and they all had knives.
He gets out of the gate, and then he stands there looking at the gate back and forth, like he's trying to decide what to do. Should I just leave, or should I get my buddies? Like, he's coming back to the gate.
I didn't know bears could
He's
be
got-
such wusses.
That's great.
All right. Okay, so I don't know what category to think of this. I don't know, maybe Darwin Awards? But apparently a man in Florida, the news story says taken wild to another level. I would say took stupid to another level. He called the police in order to come and test his package of crystal meth that he had bought to make sure that it was the real deal.
Did he think they wouldn't take it, or?
Who knows what he thought? The police, the sheriff's office has no hypothesis on why he decided that this might be a good idea. Turned out it really was crystal meth, so he's been arrested.
Huh. Some guys just aren't...
I guess
smart.
he tried it a little bit, didn't get as high as he expected, and so he called the police, I guess maybe under the influence of the crystal meth, to say, hey, I don't think
Maybe
the
he
stuff is
thought-
real. Come test it for me.
Wow. That...
I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, here's the thing. He's got drug brain. And, you know, I don't know a whole lot of druggies, but I do know some. And there's a thing that happens where just the normal processing of information is it's hampered. Even when you're not on the drugs,
Yeah.
you have a problem. This is why druggies fall into cults so often. Because even when they get out of the drugs, or somebody gets them out of the drugs, they don't make good decisions because it takes a long time for them to lose drug brain.
I guess so.
And-
And drug brain must be just like so, I don't know, separated from cause and effect.
Yeah, they really simple things they can't figure out. And it's just, they do weird, dumb things like join cults or weird religions. And that's just what they do. Or, you know, I mean, we've got a nephew who's done all kinds of crazy things, and you know what the crazy things he's done.
Yep.
And it's just he wasn't high for all of them or drunk. A lot of them are just stupid things he does because he's got drug brain.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you stay on drugs for a long time. You should not make any decisions concerning your life until you've been off drugs for at least 2 years. You know?
And
even if it's just weed.
knowing that is sound advice should keep you from ever getting on drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. So
All
this
right.
guy...
Well, the Hernando County Sheriff's Office decided to go ahead and sort of push this to the next level on social media. They are promoting their drug testing service. They say, if you or someone you know have doubts about the authenticity of any illegal narcotics you have on hand or have obtained from another person, the Hernando County Sheriff's Office is pleased to provide this service free of charge.
Well, that's nice of them. I wonder how many other druggies are going to call them.
Yeah.
You come tell, I got some. If I were a reporter or something, I would go ahead and call with some, I don't know, sugar or something.
Yeah, just kind of, hey, let's test out your testing service. See how good you really do.
I want to see how this works. Yeah,
Is this
if I
legit?
lived in the area, I would do that.
All right, 2020 or anybody out there, 48 hours or something. All right.
Yeah, test out. All right, what do we got?
Next. So you remember the it wasn't really cartoon. It was more like not claymation, but one of those kinds of things about the Santa with the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that we always watched as kids.
Rudolph.
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny because we always loved to watch that as kids. And then I watched it once as an adult. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Santa is such an asshole in this.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Come to think of it.
Well, anyway, regardless of Santa's behavior, you remember the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Charlie in the box.
train with the square.
And stuff like that. Okay.
Hey, Charlie in a box. Nobody wants to play with the Charlie in a box. I never could figure that one out. And there was another one that was like, why is that toy a
Just
misfit?
call yourself Jack.
Yeah. There were a couple toys on that
It's
didn't
like,
make
yeah,
sense.
okay. Now, the train with square wheels I could get.
That was obvious.
I always felt sorry for that toy.
If an elephant has pink dots, so what?
Yeah, I mean, there's pink elephants.
Kids would play with an elephant. Yeah. It was a drunken
The
gift.
toy for the drunken kids. All right. Anyway, so this island in Maine, I'm going to mispronounce it, I'm sure. Matinicus Island in Maine has a library
Yeah.
on which they kind of have it as their mission to take in books that have been either banned or somehow fallen out of favor elsewhere. So, for example, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, or The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Actually, I don't know why those would be considered
What?
like banned books, because we had to read those in high school.
Wait a minute.
But anyway,
Grapes of Wrath
books,
is banned?
any books that at some point were banned, which I think all of those were. This island wants to make them part of their library collection.
I wonder if they're going to have.
I guess the most
World's
banned books
Dirtiest
in the country. I
Jokes.
guess books that have been banned in the most places, maybe.
Maybe. But I still don't understand. When was Grapes of Wrath banned?
Let me look it up.
Or To Kill a Mockingbird, for all that matters.
Hold on. So the Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, 1939.
Yeah, I mean, at some time
Okay,
it's not. It's usually historically not.
Okay.
So
So, are they going to include politically unpopular books now, like Dr. Seuss?
that's what I'm wondering. I mean, can you go get the banned Dr. Seuss books there?
Or are they going to have books like The World's Dirtiest Jokes?
Well,
Do you remember that?
when it eventually becomes banned, are they going to include the Bible?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm gonna look more into
It
this.
says that the island
see if-
only has 100 year-round residents, and a live and let live tolerance and appreciation for differences is essential.
But the books listed are all liberal books. You know,
Sort of, yeah.
I mean, which it's not. I'm not saying that I liked The Grapes of Wrath. I didn't read To Kill a Mockingbird. I kind of liked.
I
the
really
movie.
liked To Kill a Mockingbird. I was went on Grapes of Wrath.
Really?
Yeah.
It
But I
kinda
can
got
see
me
why
hooked
it's
on
more your kind of
Steinbeck.
book than mine. Yeah.
as a writer, I really like the writing and the flow of his. I think he's a great artist.
John Steinbeck. What other books did he
And
write?
yeah, you're right. Come to think of it, he wrote the two guys, Lenny and
Well, that was The Grapes of Wrath.
George.
Oh, no. Of Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men.
Oh, he wrote that too. That's right. Okay.
And he wrote East of Eden, I think. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
Which kind of dragged on a little, but
You know,
yeah,
I
I
haven't read much of his. Maybe I should read him a little bit more of him.
He is. You're right. He's kind of a depressing writer, and I like the depressing books.
That's
more
right.
than
You do
his
like
other
the
books.
depressing movies too. I mean, like you really
Yeah.
liked, for example, No Country for Old Men, and I was like, oh
Yeah,
man, that kind of left me empty.
That's one of my favorite books.
See?
And then Scanner Darkly's my other favorite book.
Okay, I didn't.
Which is
I
equally-
didn't read the book A Scanner Darkly yet. I intend to. I watched the movie and I really liked the end.
If you see the movie, you probably and not read the book, you're thinking, well, you just said depressing, and then you said Scanner Darkly. Believe it or not, even though the conversations in the movie are almost word for word for the ones in the book, the book is a depressing version of the movie.
Really? Wow.
It is
Because the
you
movie
read the book,
is like
you probably
the movie's
won't
depressing,
laugh once.
but it ends on this like
It's
just
funny.
a faint note of hope
yeah, kinda. But you don't get that hope.
from the book.
There is that hope in the book.
It's harder
kinda.
to find.
But no, it's harder to swallow as hope.
Oh, okay.
And also, but the conversations don't make you laugh in the book.
Oh,
I don't know why. I don't know why they're funny in the movie and they're not in the book. I guess it shows you how good an actor, Woody Harrelson and what's his name are.
oh, in the
other
movie.
guy. Yeah. What is his name?
What are you talking about? A Scanner Darkly?
A Scanner Darkly.
So-
Robert Downey Jr.,
Keanu Reeves,
Woody Harrelson, Keanu Reeves,
and then the other guy.
Yeah.
Who's the guy that?
Woody Harrelson.
No. But the other guy was the guy who's he's a little bit stockier, maybe chubbier. He was in Executive Decision.
What are you talking? Which character are you talking about? You're talking about Freck?
I don't know the characters' names. It's been so long since I watched that movie. Hold on just a minute, though.
Roy Cochrane?
Oliver Platt. Wasn't he in it?
Oliver Platt was it? I don't think so. Who do you think he was?
He was the guy who was seeing the bugs coming out of his dog and stuff at the very beginning.
No, that's Roy Cochrane is his name. That was Charles Freck.
Oh, Roy.
Freck
Okay,
is the guy in
okay.
the-
Somehow I thought he was Oliver Platt.
No,
Okay.
I don't think he was really in anything else. Not much, anyway.
Well, you know what? I'm looking at Goodreads now. I mean, because that book is. So we talk about John Steinbeck, but like A Scanner Darkly
Yeah.
is Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
What do you think about the book? And I'm looking on Goodreads right now, and there's a book they've got. It's got a 5.0 rating. It's only got one rating. Whatever you do to the rest of you, your mind belongs to Lascante.
Did they suggest that to you?
It's on Goodreads.
Did they? Was it?
No. I looked.
you-
I
okay.
did a search.
Okay.
But it says about the author Philip K. Dick.
We can't even talk about that. We can't even say why that's funny.
Sorry, guys.
Let's just. We're not allowed to say anything else about that book.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Where are we? We've got Misfit
Oh
Toys.
shoot! Yeah, Misfit
No.
Toys, Misfit books, banned books,
Misfit
and,
books.
and that's
Okay.
Steinbeck and so on. All of the banned books.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
These.
Next. So you remember I said it's gonna be funny that you said this. You were talking about scrappers with Dad
Yeah.
getting the printing press out of the basement. Well, Here, an Alabama man was accused of stealing a 70-ton crane. Apparently, the crane was left in like an area of the woods, and the guy called a tow truck, not the kind that you could just tow a car with, and said, "Yeah, I need the guy who owned this gave it to me. I need it towed out of here so I can scrap it for, scrap cost."
Wow.
Well,
tried to steal.
He ended up being arrested. The guy never gave it to him.
Yeah.
26-year-old Clanton man arrested Tuesday on probation violation and first-degree theft charges. Thing is, it's like he called a wrecker service, said he had a 70-ton crane to pull out of the woods.
And here's this 20-ton crane, a picture of
70
it.
ton.
I guess they did pull it out.
Yeah, not 20
70
ton, 70 ton.
Yeah. I guess they did pull it out eventually.
They must have but the thing is, why was it in the woods? And who owned the woods?
Well, the guy who did not give it to him.
I guess it's...
I mean... But it looks like an army piece of equipment.
It does, doesn't it? It's got camo on it and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big... I mean, it looks like it could lift a tank up or something.
Maybe that's what it was. You see things like that and you wonder,
what the heck?
How did this get into the middle of the woods?
How did it get there?
What's it doing here?
Mm-hmm.
We see things like that in the woods every now and then, like when we go to the gorge trips. And,
right. Yeah, we see some crazy stuff in the woods.
But a 70-ton crane, that's out there. Huh.
Anyway,
what's all the Walmart?
Okay, the Walmart. So this isn't really, I don't know, it doesn't quite count as my normal nonsense story, but last week a Walmart distribution center in my city caught fire. Okay, so that first one, 3.5 miles away.
Okay.
About 1,000 employees got out of it safely. Nobody was killed. One of those employees knows how the fire started. But apparently he's not talking because they say it'll probably be a couple of weeks before they know anything. The morning after, I saw, hey, look at that. Next morning, even though all the firefighters had been working the previous day and that kind of stuff, I saw the smoke drifting across the road. How much smoke was there from the fire? The morning after, the smoke still, billowing or whatever.
Oh,
so
well, it's just the next day. I mean,
well, do you remember when
camp?
You weren't that old when camp burned down. It was like that too. I mean, it's like it was the next day, Sunday, that we went out to check it out during the day, and it's like there's heaping piles of ashes, but smoke was coming out of all of them. And that was just a tiny little house, like a cabin.
The whole distribution center. It's good that these things burn down.
What, you mean Walmart's?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, there was another fire. I don't have the news article on it, but there was another fire like up along Ronald Reagan Parkway north of that the next day or the next, like 2 days after or something like that. That was another like distribution center kind of place, which made me wonder, is there some kind of serial arsonist?
Maybe it's arson
going on, but there's been nothing since then, so I think they were just coincidence.
I don't know. That's awful coincidental.
It is awful coincidental.
How often does distribution center
Maybe he only had
down?
two things that he wanted to burn down, and that's all. He didn't get hooked or anything like that.
Or maybe it was the landlord.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's all I got.
I do not have a saint.
All right. Well, we'll just have to work more on having. I kind of caught you by surprise because I'm going out of town Thursday. I didn't want to record Wednesday because I have to get up early and get to the airport by 5 a.m. Thursday. Yeah. And so that kind of left today. So I sort of caught you off guard as far as Saints goes.
Yeah. And then we had to do it early because I got to work early.
That's
tomorrow.
Right. You got to work early tomorrow, so we did it early.
All right. Well, folks, think about what we said, and as
circle
always,
them beads.
Especially this Friday.
Especially Friday.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.